More bad news for the Pac-12 on the national scene. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, just took in the second half of Arizona State's win at Cal to knock out the Golden Bears among the ranks of the undefeated, therefore knocking out the Pac-12. Just in Week 5, at the beginning of Week 5, knocking the Pac-12 out of the ranks of the undefeated. And while all the other major conferences have multiple undefeated teams, the Pac-12 appears to have knocked itself out, to a certain degree, out of the college football playoffs. Of course, this is the least respected conference right now, and especially at the top of the league, the least respected conference in regards to having playoff contenders, and now everybody's lost. Everybody's lost across the board, and the team that lost tonight, Cal, some would say, who watched the Ole Miss game in Oxford last Saturday, that they should have lost that game. All right. Arizona State wins over Cal tonight, 24-17. Again, the big story in the game on the Cal side especially was that Chase Garbers was knocked out of the game. So he got the Golden Bears off to a great start. He was 9 for 12 passing, 117 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So compare Garbers' numbers and his productivity in leading the Cal offense to a touchdown versus what Devon Monster, the former UCLA quarterback, produced. So again, Garbers 9 for 12, hurt his shoulder. He was scrambling out of the pocket to his left, had some clear sailing, didn't notice or recognize that there was a defender coming from his backside who tripped him up, and he landed awkwardly on his shoulder. It was not a violent play, didn't look like a serious injury was going to result from the tackle, but Garbers landed on the shoulder and had to be taken off the field. He returned to the sideline after the game, and we'll find out this week if Chase Garbers is going to be back in action for Cal anytime soon. Garbers 9 for 12. Devon Monster comes into the game, goes 5 for 14. Garbers threw for 117 yards. Monster could measure only 23 measly yards for the Cal passing attack. Monster threw the interception with no touchdowns. Garbers threw the touchdown with no interceptions. I'm thinking that the loss of Chase Garbers possibly cost Cal the game. So he leaves the game. Monster did lead a touchdown drive to start the second half to put Cal up 14-7, but not necessarily Monster doing the work, as Cal ran it down Arizona State's throat 12 consecutive times. Christopher Brown had 8 carries in the series, 8 of the 12 rushes, 12 consecutive runs, as Cal bulked up and said, we're going to run it down your throat. And they did, at least that first drive of the second half, to go up 14-7. Now, Arizona State could have had a lead going into halftime. They were in better position. They played better in the first half. Much of that had to do, again, with Garbers going down, but Arizona State missed 2 field goals, courtesy Christian Zendejas of the Zendejas brothers. They also had a tight end who dropped a surefire, huge gainer, probable touchdown pass down the seam, wide open, and I mean wide open, nobody around him, dropped the football on a 3rd and whatever the yardage total was. So Arizona State dropped a touchdown pass, missed 2 field goals. So there's 13 points on the board for Arizona State off the board, and they trailed again at this point 14-7 after 1 drive in the third quarter. The Devon Monster led touchdown drive, but he didn't have a whole lot to do with it in 12 consecutive runs for the Golden Bears. Arizona State came right back. They had a big kickoff return from Brandon Ayuk, who is one of the more explosive, electric players in the Pac-12. Eno Benjamin carried 29 times, and even though his offensive line probably 3/4 of the time let him down and not providing him any kind of push, any kind of room, he was hit in the backfield repeatedly. Eno Benjamin, man, he had 2 catches out of the backfield, 29 carries, 31 touches, 100 yards rushing, 114 from scrimmage, and he had some big runs on the next series as Arizona State kept it for 15 plays. And there was a big slant play on a 3rd down conversion from Jaden Daniels to Ayuk, who took it inside the 5-yard line. Eno Benjamin from there, no running room, still found his way into the end zone. Jaden Daniels missed some passes on this game in which if he develops as a quarterback, and he's just a kid, this is just his fourth game of the season, right? And Arizona State is going to develop him. Hopefully he does take that teaching and applies it, because he had wide open receivers in this game, but still played relatively well at 14 for 24 for 178 yards passing. And Jaden Daniels, of course, a threat outside the pocket, rang up 84 yards rushing. So at that point, we had a 14-14 game. What appeared to be a huge play in the game was when Arizona State had the ball, and the Cal defensive duo of Cameron Good and Lonnie Tawailoa combined for the strip sack. Knocked it loose, recovered it, sandwiched Daniels, and they couldn't move the ball, but they kicked a 47-yard field goal from there. It was 17-14 Cal, about 12 minutes left in the game. But Jaden, Eno, the Sun Devils came right back, and again, it was Jaden Daniels and Eno Benjamin doing all the work. 15 plays for 75 yards, and 21-17 Arizona State with 5 minutes left as they scored the touchdown on that one. So we got a 21-17 game at this point after the 15-play drive, and then on a fourth down play, I don't know if Cal had designated the play to go definitely to the one receiver on the out route to the right, because Devon Monster did not survey the field at all. He took a 3-step drop, he threw it to his right on a 4th and 6 play, and the wide receiver was not even close to being open in any possible way. The defensive back, Ashuri Crosswell, had obvious angle on the football and broke it up. He could have picked the ball off. The ball was basically thrown to him, and that ended the Cal drive right there. Arizona State this time converted the field goal. Christian Zendejas hit 1 of 3 on the night. This is the one that he hit with just under 3 minutes left to play, and Arizona State went up 24-17. So Cal gets the ball back. They use their timeouts to force the field goal after the running plays to Eno Benjamin. So they had 2:53 on the clock, ton of time, but no timeouts. Trailing 24-17, have to score the touchdown. And it didn't matter if they needed a touchdown or a field goal. They didn't even come anywhere close to midfield, as it was 4 and out for Cal on that series, as there was a Crosswell play again across the middle in which he broke up a pass intended for Jeremiah Hawkins, and Merlin Robertson provided the pass rush on 4th and long against Devon Monster and company. So Merlin Robertson, the Pac-12 Defensive Rookie of the Year last year, comes up with a big play to end this one and put it in the win column for Arizona State, 24-17 at Cal. So we no longer have any undefeated teams in the Pac-12. Cal was the last one standing. They're gone. Everybody has lost a game in the Pac-12. That does not bode well. The tiebreaker will not go the Pac-12's way, and against any competition from the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, or of course the SEC. What Arizona State has coming up. And first, an interesting note for those of us who predict games, and even before the season starts, we predict games down the road. Keep this in mind. Over the last 3 weeks, if you would have said Arizona State's going to go 2-1 in those 3 games, which 2 would they win? Or which one would they lose? They would certainly go to Michigan State as a 15-point underdog and lose that game. Or they might lose this game to Cal on the road. No, Arizona State lost the home game as a 9-point favorite against Colorado. They won as a 15-point underdog at Michigan State. They won as an underdog tonight, a 4-point dog to Cal on the road. So Arizona State wins the 2 that they weren't supposed to. They win the game over the last 3 weeks that they were the big favorite at home against Colorado. So Arizona State still in prime position to compete for the South Division Championship. This obviously was a key win for them. Over the next 4 weeks, they've got Washington State. They go to Utah, huge game, of course. UCLA and USC are the next 2 games for Arizona State. And the way things stand right now with USC's win over Utah, who was the apparent favorite in the South Division, USC now the team to beat at 2-0 in the Pac-12. For California, they go to Oregon. Then they've got Oregon State. Then they go to Utah. Then they've got Washington State. Those are the next 4 games for Cal, 3 of the 4 in division play against some of the main competition for that North Division title in the Pac-12 against, again, Oregon State in 2 weeks, Oregon on the road for Cal, and Justin Wilcox next week. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, giving you a look at Arizona State's big road win at Cal. Your thoughts about the Pac-12 in survival mode and anything in the day of college football on this Friday night, with Duke pummeling Virginia Tech in Blacksburg 45-10, and Penn State's whitewashing of the blackout in Maryland 59-0. We'll talk about those games as well. And of course, we have previewed all the big games for Saturday's Week 5. So check out those videos. Northwestern, Wisconsin. We also looked at Auburn, Mississippi State, Ohio State, Nebraska, USC, and Washington, as well as a few others. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.